You volunteer with Honor Flight every year. This past year, you were on the first flight. You were the flight leader for the very first flight of the year, taking veterans from across the North Country and Vermont down to the memorials in Washington, D.C., built in their honor. Why do you volunteer and participate in this?
For me, it's really personal. My grandfather was a veteran. My sister-in-law served in the Marines. So in our family, it's close to home and close to my heart. But just think about it. You know, these men and women have stepped forward in volunteering, and some, of course, were drafted. But anytime they put on the uniform, they were willing to lay down their lives for us, our freedoms. And while I never served, what I can do now is serve them in getting them down to DC to see these monuments in their honor, to celebrate them. You know, we just recently had our first all-Vietnam flight. And when the folks came back, they were not treated well by our community and by our nation. And we owe them everything throughout the years, from now to Vietnam to World War II. So I do it because it's what we should be doing.
And there have been 30 flights now over just the past few years.
Yep.
The flights cost about $12,000 each. Yep. Have you been surprised by the ability of the organization to raise the money that they need to send each of these flights?
I'm not surprised at all, actually. In fact, I'm inspired by the example of our youth, too. Beekman Central School District recently sponsored a full flight and a little bit more of another one. A lot of people judge the youth of our nation, and I think that when people really dial into it and become educated and understand, people continue to show up to the ceremonies. I mean, we've always had historic crowds from the volunteer fire departments. They're there doing the arc with the flag, to the people that see them for send-off. Also, the people that come back to greet them at the end of the day is inspiring. So locally, people get it. And I think part of the reason that we get it is we used to have the old Air Force Base. You know, and that's not the only reason, but we have a lot of veterans that have served out of this area.
And you mentioned the 7th grade at Beekmantown Central School raised not only $12,000 for the one flight earlier this year, but $19,000 altogether. So they're well on their way to sponsoring a second flight.
Yeah, and it's inspiring. I mean, because that's what Honor Flight hopes to do, is not only get the veterans down to DC, but to remind citizens at large that we have a responsibility to honor these individuals. The other school districts have done a lot of things too. I think Saranac soccer team and some of the others have done things. So it's not just Beekmantown, it's all the school districts that are really lending their hand.
There is a new sign on the road out to the ferry on Cumberland Head. It's a bright red sign. It is a historic marker of sorts. That honors the legend of the lake and Champ, the sea monster that many people believe lives within the lake. That sign was something you folks, along with the Chamber of Commerce, put up this spring. What was the idea behind doing that, and what sort of responses that received?
So the town of Plattsburgh is working on a smart growth plan, and we don't have enough time to go through all of it, but one of the things that we're going to be focusing on is this concept of gateway treatments. And the water tower was one of those gateway treatments. It's a welcome sign, welcome to Plattsburgh, bienvenue. So these little kind of off-the-road opportunities for people to engage in the region's history and the myth and legends. And you know, Champy is certainly associated with a bunch of different communities in the region, and we're not taking claim to be the only community, but we have a beautiful vista off of Cumberland Head that you can take a look of, you know, Lake Champlain. And the Chamber of Commerce is a great place to get some information on Champy and around the region. So it's kind of like our, you know, world's biggest ball of yarn or world's biggest shoe. It's not meant for hundreds of people to go to at a time. It's just when you're out, maybe eating in Michigan, you want to go check out the sign and learn a little bit about our region.
So people driving by see it, but is it also getting buzz elsewhere? Are people hearing about it?
It is. There's been a number of blogs and outlets that have picked up on it. So if you Google it, it pops up on some roadside attractions, and I think that you'll continue to see some more people telling the story and kind of doing a deeper dive as they learn about Champy.
Michael Cashman, thanks a lot for taking the time.
Always good to see you.